In this talk, we'll cover a range of topics to do with thinking about your options. The purpose is to provide you with enough information to help you make an informed decision about your next step. The information that I will provide is UK-wide, not just Manchester-specific, and looks at the various options available to you depending upon your academic background. We'll look at the courses and routes into medicine for graduates, entry requirements, admissions tests, work experience, making an application, and also funding your studies. In this talk, we'll cover a range of topics to do with thinking about your options. The purpose is to provide you with enough information to help you make an informed decision about your next step. The information that I will provide is UK-wide, not just Manchester-specific, and looks at the various options available to you depending upon your academic background. We'll look at the courses and routes into medicine for graduates, entry requirements, admissions tests, work experience, making an application, and also funding your study. As careers consultants, we hear lots of stories from different individuals explaining why they wish to study medicine. When it comes to your application form and interview, having your own story right down to the personal motivators is really important. Being clear about your reasons for applying will make a big difference to your application. There isn't one universal reason for studying medicine, so find your own personal drivers. From speaking to students over the years, some of these reasons are stated quite frequently. Some really relish the idea of practically applying some of the science they've learnt in their first degree. Others particularly want the opportunity to make a difference to other people. Some see rewards as very important. They may be financial or personal rewards. For others, it's about the academic challenge or the challenging work environment. Your advantage when applying as a graduate is that you've had more time to think about why you're suited to a career in medicine and find out about your strengths. A good tip at this stage is to read the document called Tomorrow's Doctors. This is published by the General Medical Council and is available on their website as a download. Essentially, it looks at the competencies and attributes for a clinical career. Try to reflect on some of these in your personal statement. To what extent do you feel you match some of these competencies and attributes? Ultimately, remember that your reasons must be rational and honest, and framed by your skills and supported by evidence from your work experience. A key question asked by graduate students considering graduate entry to medicine is, how realistic are my chances of getting on the course? You may well have seen these figures elsewhere. They're widely published by UCAS, but you can see here that approximately 82,000 applications are received for just under 8,000 places to study medicine in the UK every year. Now, competition rates differ from school to school. Some report as many as 1,500 applications for 40 places. For others, the ratio is less. Be wary of the statistics that you will read regarding competition ratios. For example, Cambridge has relatively few applicants, sometimes as few as 150 for the 22 places that they offer, and many good applicants are put off applying to Cambridge by the perceived standard required. When speaking to students on a day-to-day basis, I do come across a number of medical students each year who are considering leaving their course for a variety of reasons. Nationally, approximately 3% of medical students leave their course, so whilst this isn't a high number, the cost of doing a medical degree and then dropping out is incredibly high. You need to be really sure that it's the right path for you and do everything you can to test it out before you apply. Some of the reasons that students sometimes give to careers consultants are demonstrated here. Things like the pressure of being under constant scrutiny. Medicine requires constant assessment of your skills and competencies through both formative and summative assessments. It can be relentless testing, and many people find that very difficult to handle. Also, the pressure of having a high level of responsibility for others, a perceived inability to make difficult decisions, and the ethical dilemmas that you might face in day-to-day work. Long hours, a demanding workload, and a high level of commitment are also cited as reasons for leaving the course. And of course, a very obvious one for many people is the financial commitment required. Having said all of that, the purpose of this talk is to look at your options to help you make an informed decision as to whether this is the right step for you. So let's have a look at some of those options. There are essentially three main routes for studying medicine as a second degree. You could choose to study a standard 5-year undergraduate course. You may choose to study a 6-year undergraduate course, which would include a foundation or pre-clinical year, or you may be attracted to the accelerated 4-year graduate entry course. This one is specifically for graduates. All three of these courses are open to graduate applicants. Different medical schools have different standards, different applications criteria, so do check with the admissions teams at schools that you're interested in to find out which type of course they offer and whether they accept graduates from your discipline background onto that course. I'm going to look at each of these courses in turn to help you understand what they entail, where they are offered, and whether or not they would be the right course for you. The first course we're going to look at is the 4-year graduate entry course. This is currently offered by 15 UK medical schools, and you can see the list on the slide here. Of those 15, 9 of them are open to any degree discipline background, and these are highlighted in red. The ones that require a science background are white on the slide, and some of them insist on it being a life sciences or medical related degree. You can see that over 50% of graduate entry courses do not require a science background. Now, many of these, instead of requiring a science degree, may look for you to have A-level biology and or A-level chemistry, and we'll look in that in a little more detail shortly. Those schools asterisked on the slide require you to be a graduate at the time of application, so you cannot put in an application whilst you're still studying an undergraduate degree. They require you to have completed and received your degree before applying. Courses vary. Some are bespoke to graduates, others integrate the graduate applications with the undergraduate students. Most placed an emphasis on self-directed learning and are intense with much shorter holidays than the 5-year counterparts. On some courses you will spend your first year with graduate students and then join the undergraduate 5-year stream for the remaining 3 years of your course. They are taught in a variety of methods. Some are more traditional didactic approaches to learning with lectures, anatomy sessions and seminars. Others have a more problem-based or exploratory style of learning. For a full list of courses available, have a look at the UCAS website at www.ucas.com. The second route for graduate entry is the 5-year standard entry course. Now, some 5-year courses have an additional 6th year, with this being placed at the beginning of the course. It is known as a foundation or pre-med year, and is often designed for those students with a limited science background. So, if you're approaching medicine with a non-science background, with limited A-level knowledge, you may feel that a 6-year course would be more suited to you. Places are very often allocated to graduates on these courses. Of course, this is a traditional undergraduate programme. The majority of those on the course will be undergraduates, but most universities allocate a number of places for graduates. As a note, Manchester does not have a set quota of graduate places on its 5-year undergraduate degree and will accept as many graduates on the course as they receive good competitive applications. As I have said, some require a science-based first degree, but many are open to all disciplines. They do usually all require a chemistry and or a biology A-level background. Again, for a full list of courses on offer, have a look at the UCAS website and visit the individual school's website for details of their assessment criteria. If you feel you're falling short of the required entry requirements for the course, but you still want to apply, it's worth speaking to the admissions tutors to discuss the usefulness of undertaking an Access to Medicine course. Access to Medicine courses are designed for those without the required qualifications for entry to medicine. They're 1 year in length, and the important thing to bear in mind is that they don't guarantee a place at medical school. They're not recognised by all medical schools, so do check. For example, the University of Manchester Medical School will consider applicants who have studied an Access course at Manchester College and the University of West Anglia only. Access courses are available at a range of institutions, but as I've said, not all are recognised by all medical schools. Medical schools will and do have partnerships and preferences, so do check with the admissions office of the institution that you are ultimately hoping to study at before making an application for an Access course. Access courses can be studied on a full or a part-time basis. Let's have a look at the academic entry criteria now for medicine as a second degree. Remember to double check any information provided here on the UCAS website because that's where you'll find the most up-to-date information on entry criteria. In terms of your degree background, just to recap, most medical schools will require you to have a first or a 2-1 classification of first degree, and some will be looking for science backgrounds, whilst others will take any discipline. In terms of A-levels, they're often looking for a good chemistry A2 and biology. This is particularly true of the 5-year courses. Many schools also look back to your GCSEs and will usually expect you to have achieved a B or a C in maths and English. A further element of academic entry criteria are the admissions tests that are used by many medical schools. These include the UK CAT, the GAMSAT and the BMAT. Do check with each admissions department to find out which of these tests, if any, the school are using, as it's very important that you sit the tests that they require. Let's have a closer look at some of these admission tests. More applicants than ever, including mature students, are applying to medical school, which makes selection and comparison of candidates very difficult. Admissions tests were introduced in an effort to level the playing field. Schools hope to test skills and attributes that are not directly measured in A-levels and degree subjects. The skills and attributes are set out in the General Medical Council's Tomorrow's Doctors publication, for example. The important points to bear in mind with these tests. There are commercial preparations courses out there that you can purchase and pay a fee to buy practice papers and sit mock examinations. Do your research online. Check out some reviews on online forums before committing to any of these. The Careers Service does provide a good amount of practice material both specific to these tests and similar testing material, which you're more than welcome to come and access at the Careers Resource Centre for free. Taking a closer look at some of these tests, the most commonly used is the UK CAT. Visit the UK CAT website for the most up-to-date information on registration, fees and testing centres. Most 5-year and many of the 4-year courses are now using the UK CAT. The results of the test, once you have undertaken it, are valid for a full year. Registration for the test is in May of the year that you're making your application to UCAS, and closing dates for registration are usually the end of September. So make sure you think about your test well in advance of your UCAS application. Testing usually takes place between June and October. The test is computer-based and very similar to your driving theory test if you've ever experienced that. It's a 2-hour test with questions looking at your attributes, mental abilities and professional behaviour. It's all to do with reasoning, analysis, testing skills and behaviours that identify candidates as having potential in a medical career. The test is currently charged at between £65 and £80, depending on what time of year you choose to sit it. Testing centres do book up very early, so if you would like the maximum choice of testing centres, register as soon as you can and choose your time slot. Practice papers are available online on the UCAT website, and practice resources, including the UK CAT book, are available in the Careers Service. There is a bursary available to cover the fees of this test. Check out the UK CAT website to find out if you're eligible for that. In terms of how the test is used by the different medical schools, a useful UK CAT wiki has been developed by the Student Room, which I'd highly recommend you have a look at. Each medical school uses the UK CAT differently. Most will publish on their websites how they intend to use it, and if they don't, most admissions tutors are happy to disclose to you if you were to telephone or email to find out what their cut-off mark is, for example, or at what stage in the application they use it. Once you've sat the UK CAT, your results are available immediately for you to view, and because you complete the UK CAT before you submit your UCAS application, your score can be a guide for your choice of university prior to UCAS, if you know the cut-off scores demanded by the medical schools. Let's take a look at the GAMSAT test now. As you can see from the slide, it's only used by a small number of courses. Remember, do check with admissions departments before assuming that the GAMSAT is used, as schools have been known from year to year to change the test that they use. There's one testing day in September where everyone comes together to sit the test. UK test centres are located in Bristol, Cardiff, London, Liverpool, Birmingham and Sheffield. It's quite an intense test in that it takes place over the course of 8 hours with a small break in the middle for lunch. The subject matter is very science specific. Now, it has been said that you don't need a science degree to do well in this, but you will need a very strong knowledge of biological and physical sciences. It's fair to say that it's about equivalent to the first year degree level of biology and chemistry, and perhaps about A level at physics. The emphasis is on problem solving and interpretation of information and applied reasoning. Registration for the test is between June and August, and as I've said, you sit the test in September of the year that you're submitting your application. The fee to take the test in 2014 is £234. Have a look at the GAMSAT website for more details on registration dates and current costs. There are practice papers available online and in the Careers Service Resource Centre. The final admissions test to be aware of is the BMAT. Now, this is only used by a small number of universities listed here. Registration takes place before September, and you sit the test in October or November of the year that you submit your application to UCAS. It's a 2-hour test with questions testing your aptitude, skills and scientific knowledge to A-level standard. Again, practice papers are available on the BMAT website, and the University College London has produced some questions for sections 1 and 2 of the test on their website, which I've linked here. The fee is £44 to take the test. Do double check all dates and costs on the BMAT website, as changes can occur from year to year. To give you a snapshot, an example of admissions criteria, I want to show you now what the University of Manchester Medical School look for in terms of its entry criteria for graduates. The first thing that they state as a requirement is a 2-1 degree in any discipline. They look for AAA grades at A2 or equivalent, and A2 subjects must include chemistry, then one other science and one further academically rigorous subject. You should have achieved 7 GCSEs, of which 5 should be A or A star, and English language and maths should be at grade B or above. They also use the UK CAT. To talk to the admissions school at Manchester, the telephone number is here on the slide, and you're welcome to email them at ugmedicine@manchester.ac.uk. To give you an idea of how Manchester uses the material that you supply to them in your application, this slide talks you through the process that they use during selection. The first thing that they have a look at is a UCAS form. They look at the academic screen to check that you meet their entry criteria. Then they read the personal statement and your reference. At this point, they also look at any special circumstances that you may have. If you pass the UCAS form part of the selection process, you will then be placed in rank order by your UK CAT score, and the top cut of those will be invited to interview. Now, each medical school uses the admissions tests, such as the UK CAT, at a different point. Some carry out that UK CAT ranking as the first part of the selection process before looking at the personal statement. Others use the same process as Manchester, reviewing the UCAS form first and then ranking by UK CAT score. When you come to make your application, the first place you should visit is the UCAS website. Register with UCAS as soon as you can. Unlike when you applied for your first degree at university, you'll apply for your medicine degree as an individual. You will not be linked to the University of Manchester and will need no centre number to complete your UCAS application. Applications open on the 1st of September and close earlier than other courses on the 15th of October in the year prior to entry. You can choose up to 4 medical schools to apply to, and these can be a combination of 4 and 5-year courses. You will need to upload your personal statement, and you will need to make sure that you have an academic referee who is able to upload a reference for you. Make sure you get in touch with your academic referee as soon as possible and try to build up a relationship with them that allows them to comment on your suitability for medicine. You might want to show them your personal statement or set up a meeting to discuss your interest in medicine with them. They must be available to upload their reference for you before the 15th of October deadline, or your application will be withdrawn. The final stage in the process is an interview. When it comes to choosing a medical school, each of you will have your own idea about what's important. Many of you will think about geographical location. You may want to be close to home if you're thinking about minimising your costs. Learning and teaching styles are another factor worth considering. Which medical school offers a course that you will most likely to succeed in? As I've already mentioned, they each adopt different learning and teaching styles. Find the one that works for you. Think about your own experience of studying so far. The best way to find out more about this is to attend open days. Most open days require you to register in advance for a place, so visit the university websites for a visit to the schools you're interested in applying to and have a look for the open day dates. There are some useful websites on this slide where you can chat with other potential applicants about their choice of medical school and find out vital information about what it's really like to study there. Let's now have a look at what a good application would contain. A good application has a number of facets to it. One of the most important is that your motivation for medicine is strong, both your motivation for the course and for the career. You need to have clear personal reasons for choosing medicine, and these need to be backed up by regular and recent work experience in a caring capacity. Work experience at grassroots level is best, so real hands-on caring experience. A good application also contains a range of hobbies and interests. What you're trying to do in your personal statement is to develop your story, explaining how you've come to be applying at this point and what your life includes that makes you a suitable potential candidate for medicine. In terms of hobbies and interests, what they really like to see is that if you have a hobby or an interest that you've engaged with fully while still achieving high grades at university. They want to see that you can balance your time well, that you can engage with opportunities and make space for personal development. They would also expect graduate applicants to have a knowledge of the healthcare system in the UK. So think about some of the NHS reforms that are occurring currently and some of the discussions that are being had in government about the priorities for healthcare. A good application also contains examples throughout of strong teamworking skills, excellent communication skills, an intellectual potential, and a strong commitment to medicine and your own personal development. Let's have a look at relevant experience in more detail now, as this is a topic as careers consultants we're often asked about. Relevant work experience in a healthcare setting can come from a variety of sources. Many students undertake part-time work. These may be roles that involve dealing with people in a stressful situation, communicating with a range of people, and working as part of a close team. Now, this may or may not be in a health setting, but any examples that you have of working in difficult situations, dealing with people, will be really valuable experience of how you work in stressful situations and how well you can work in a team. Volunteering can be a great source of experience, particularly if you can work with vulnerable people and gain practical hands-on caring experience. Now, this could be mentoring another person, motivating or teaching others, volunteering within a healthcare team, or anything else. The gold standard work experience is hands-on experience in healthcare. Support roles including hospital receptionists, porters, working in care homes, auxiliary nursing, or as a healthcare assistant. They're all incredibly valuable pieces of experience. And in fact, we are starting to see some medical schools looking for a substantial period of paid healthcare experience before you apply to medical school. Work shadowing is also valuable, but try to talk to a range of people to develop your understanding of the profession. Both junior doctors and senior staff are good sources of information on the careers paths and what it's like to really work as a doctor. Try to reflect on good practice when you see it. A useful tip is to keep a reflective diary of your experiences to help you remember and learn from them. Reflect on the things that you observe. Think about how a team came together to resolve a problem, and think about how you would feel in that situation. Positions of responsibility can also offer relevant experience for medicine. Committee membership, leadership positions, project management, anything where you have driven a project, made a difference to something, made a change. Again, these can show your engagement with the subject and show your ability to develop yourself within a specific environment. If you'd like to engage with healthcare at a more political and service level, think about joining your local NHS trust. Each NHS area has a clinical commissioning group whose membership includes patients and lay people from the local community. This is a great opportunity for you to meet with clinicians, service providers, healthcare staff, administrators, and to give your views on how services are run, take part in patient focus groups, and to find out about the latest developments in the health service. The contact details for the North Manchester Commissioning Group are on this slide, but there is also a South and Central Manchester Commissioning Group. Many local practices also have patient groups, so contact your local surgery or others local to you to see if they would like your input. To help you find work experience posts, this slide here details some links that will be useful. The first point on there is to contact the volunteer coordinator at your local hospital as soon as possible. Most hospitals have a volunteer coordinator, but you will find that they are a very busy individual who receives countless numbers of applicants for volunteering each year. There will be a process that they take your application through, and it may take some time before they respond to your application. So if you would really like to use the official volunteering route at a hospital, you need to make sure that you're applying a good 6 months in advance. The NHS Jobs website is a good source of employment within the NHS. The NHS Jobs website has posts ranging from admin right the way through to specialist healthcare consultants. Very often when posts are advertised on the NHS Jobs site, they will require some prior healthcare experience. But if you have that, it can be a way of getting a paid post. Another way of finding healthcare-related paid jobs is through job search engines and temping agencies. And a useful search engine is Indeed.com. If you haven't used it before, take a look at it. You can put the location in and the type of role that you're looking for, and what it does is it works a little bit like a Google search engine in that it pulls job vacancies from all over the web into one page for you to have a look at. Here are a few more examples of sources of work experience. I've listed here the Red Cross hospices, St John's Ambulance, and also 2 volunteering databases, which are national databases which allow you to put in your postcode and your area of interest and generates local projects that you could get involved in as a volunteer. The Careers Service also has a substantial job database of both paid and voluntary roles, and I've included the link for this on the slide as well. So do check that out and bookmark the pages that you think will be useful to you. Okay, you've gained some experience, you've thought about your reasons for applying, you looked at admissions tests, and now you're thinking about submitting an application. On this slide, I've tried to detail some of the key areas that you need to cover in your personal statement. The first, and one of the most important, is your commitment to medicine. In this section, think about how your interests developed. Think about your personal experiences, your work experiences, and demonstrate that you have a realistic understanding of the profession. Importantly, when you think about your commitment to medicine, you need to be demonstrating you've followed up your interest, that you've taken further steps to investigate further, and that you've built on your experience. Detailing the experience you've had is a fundamental part of the personal statement. You need to demonstrate that you've gained an insight into the work of the doctor. Hands-on experience is better than simple observing, so if you can, gain some hands-on caring experience, as this will make a big difference to your application. Think about what you learnt about the caring profession and about yourself. Reflect on the experience. Again, how have you built on this experience? What have you done next as a result of this fantastic piece of experience that really motivated you? What did you do next to really build on that? And what skills can you bring from other work or extracurricular experiences? Use your interests and positions of responsibility to show that you're a rounded individual and have a good work-life balance. Include some information on your education so far. If you've undertaken a science degree, perhaps some of the practical scientific skills that you've developed will be relevant for studying medicine. You may have undertaken a relevant project or a piece of research that demonstrates that you're really engaged with an area of medicine. Specifically, how have you managed your own learning? Medicine is a subject that requires real independent learning. When have you done this before? How can you prove that you engage with your subject and take every opportunity to learn? It's also important in a personal statement to think about how you're suited to a particular course, what you can bring to the course, and how will you approach the demands of it. One of the important considerations in thinking about a medical degree is how you intend to fund the course. Funding arrangements are always subject to change. The information presented here is for 2014 entry, as funding arrangements for 2015 have yet to be announced. See the NHS Careers website for updates. What this essentially means is that if you're considering the 5-year standard entry course, you'll need to find a way to fund the first 4 years of your course yourself, without access to a tuition fee or maintenance loan. Apart from meeting the tuition fees, you'll need to think about your living costs throughout your training. The 4-year course looks more favourable in terms of funding and as such is much more competitive. At present, in Year 1, graduate entry students have to self-fund the first £3,375 towards their tuition fees. In Years 2 to 4, the NHS bursary pays £3,375 towards the tuition costs. In all years of the graduate programme, a Student Finance England loan will be available to cover the difference between £3,375 and the tuition charges of the university to a maximum charge of £9,000. Graduates are eligible to apply to a Student Finance England for a full maintenance loan in their first year, and in the next 3 years of the course you can apply to the NHS Student Bursaries Unit for a means-tested NHS bursary to cover maintenance costs. And students can apply for a reduced rate maintenance loan from the Students Finance England. Have a look at the NHS bursary website listed here for up-to-date information on NHS bursaries. Just to reiterate, this information on funding is accurate for 2014 entry. Arrangements for 2015 are yet to be confirmed. For many students, it's important to look at other sources of funding to help with your studies. If you've exhausted all other sources of funding, there are also NHS hardship grants and also access to learning funds available for medical students. You need to demonstrate to your university that you are in financial difficulties and that you've exhausted all other sources of funding. Further details of the NHS hardship grant and access to learning funds can be found on the NHS Student Grant website. I've listed other sources of funding here as well. One that I would particularly recommend is the Money for Med Students website. This website includes information on trusts and grant-making organisations, as well as charities which make funds available for medical students to continue with their studies. If, after listening to this talk, you feel that you would like some more support to talk through your application and possibly consider your options when it comes to graduate entry to medicine, feel free to get in touch with the Careers Service. There are also, as mentioned throughout this talk, a number of resources at the Careers Service in the Resource Centre. We've got a range of books on graduate entry to medicine, lots of takeaway leaflets and online resources as well. To find us, we're located in University Place in the atrium on the first floor. To make an appointment, you can telephone the Careers Service on 0161 275 2829 or take a look at the website. We're open all year round, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Thank you for listening. I hope you found this talk useful.